no one.
Chris?
Hi everyone, Vegas Film Critic here, Jeffrey Howard, here to review The Promise, starring Oscar Isaac, Christian Bale, and Charlotte Le Bon. Oscar Isaac plays a medical student who travels to Istanbul at the turn of the 20th century, around 1914, and he's dying to become a doctor, to go back to a small village and make a difference in his life. While he's there, it's the Turkish uprising is now starting the Armenian genocide, and he's also meets up with Charlotte Le Bon, who plays Anna, who's also Armenian of descent, and they're all kind of well-to-do. And of course, the Turkish have some sort of, I'm not so clear on what their problem was with them. I think it's because they were Christians. The Armenians were Christians, and of course the Turks are Islamic. So I think they were doing their own ethnic cleansing at the 1914. And the journalist, American journalist who was documenting all of this and getting the information out and letting the world know of the tragedies that are going on with this war was Christian Bale's character. And so he's risking his life to report all of the villages being destroyed, the people being murdered, and businesses being destroyed. All of this, you know, a good 25 years before Hitler rose to power and did the exact same thing with the Jews. So going to this movie, I didn't realize, I thought it would be just one of these epic movies where it's a triangle love story going on between these three characters. But it wasn't. It was the Armenian genocide as a backdrop. And it's no different than something like Titanic. Titanic was a tragedy, you know, a tragedy. But they used, James Cameron used a love story as, you know, and the backdrop of the Titanic disaster. So they're doing the same. What's his name? Terry George, brilliant director, is using the Armenian tragedy for this backdrop, for this love story. And it's not because he was trying to find a way to tell the story and exploit, you know, the Armenian genocide. It is the anniversary of the Armenian genocide. And I had never heard about this until maybe like a year ago. A good friend of mine here in Las Vegas, Michael McDonald, introduced me to a friend of his who wanted me to help work on a website about the Armenian tragedy. And I had never heard of this. And it's also very topical going on right now in the news with Turkey's president just elected on a referendum where he could suspend parliament, he can make any law he wants to. It's like this much closer to a dictatorship. And Turkey for the last 50, 60 years has been one of the shining emerging democracies, you know, in the Middle East. And to this day, the Turkish government does not recognize or acknowledge any kind of Armenian genocide. The movie was produced by Kirk Kerkorian, who I knew personally, and his family growing up here in Las Vegas. He was an Armenian American. He built the Tropicana Hotel, you know, so here in Las Vegas, right across from the MGM. So I grew up with his kids, you know, back in the 80s. So he's gone now. He passed away. But I didn't know he was the producer of this film. Boy, I got that wrong. All right, correction real quick. Kirk Kerkorian, who ran MGM Grand. He was the American Armenian that put $100 million in to finance the entire production. He died a few years ago. That's who I meant to say, Kirk Kerkorian. And real quick story, I met Kirk Kerkorian at the Four Seasons in LA maybe 6, 7 years ago. And I was waiting for a taxi to go back to the airport to come back home to Vegas. And I was talking to my other film critics. We were there doing a junket. And I said, do you realize, he walks out of the door of the Four Seasons where the valet is. I go, do you realize who that is? That guy's a billionaire. I mean, a billionaire with a B, like $20 billion. So I walked over to Mr. Kerkorian. I said, hey, I'm Jeff from Las Vegas. And I shook his hand. He was really nice, you know, and I came back and go, I shook the hand of a billionaire. How many people can say they shook the hand of a billionaire? So anyway, getting back to The Promise, the movie is epic on every proportion. I mean, this is how they used to make movies 30, 40 years ago. The cinematography, the acting, Oscar Isaacs just blows it out of the water. I mean, I cannot tell you the emotion that this man had. And I've been trying to warm up to him, you know, with the Star Wars and also some of these other, the Coen Brothers movie he did a few years ago. I really haven't been a fan of his until now. To really see him turn on this emotion where he's trying to survive during this genocide, you know, being in one of the prison camps, escaping and finding his family, trying to get, you know, orphans to freedom. This movie just piles it on. And it's based on true events. It's not based on an actual story, but it's based on true events. And then also you have Christian Bale, who we see in all these action films or all these but here he is again showing us that he's one of our great actors out there as the American journalist. And then you have Charlotte Le Bon, who's like also just can turn it on, the emotion. So The movie's really hard to watch because there are scenes of genocide, of cruelty, of just think of an Armenian Schindler's List. That's how I like to pitch this. But you know what? It's important to remember it. It's important to see the events that happened and historically, because it could happen again, and it is happening again. Almost every decade we see some sort of ethnic cleansing, like Hotel Rwanda. Remember that film? Same director, Terry George. So there's genocide going on all the time. And that classic expression, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. So I think, including myself, a whole new generation needs to be aware of what happened in 1914 with the Armenian genocide.
You're safe in the woods.
No, I'm not safe. No one here is safe. Don't you see what's happening?
We've lived through these Turkish threats before.
Threats? They want us dead. I have to get us out of here before there's no time left.
The Promise is one of my favorite films of the year. I'm going to remember this movie come awards time. Now, some other critics have totally a different attitude about this movie. They see it. They thought it was, overblown. They thought it was corny. They thought it was pandering. I didn't see any of that at all. I came out with just, my heart in my hand, just seeing that the tragedy going on with men, women, and children and families being executed, being exterminated, solely for being Christian, solely for being Armenian. And not only that, this movie is just an epic scale. It really is. You've got to see this movie. It's one of my favorites of 2017. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I mean, this movie is that powerful. So make sure you see The Promise and come back and tell me what you thought. For more reviews and interviews, surf on over to my website at vegasfilmcritic.com. Also, check me out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, if you like what you see, please subscribe, comment below, thumbs up. I'm Jeffrey K. Howard in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.